Hello and welcome to GameRomp Easy Mode, an easygoing podcast where me and my wife talk about video games and video game related media today. So,
Hi.
hi Deanna.
Hi, David.
It's another one.
Okay, very exciting.
Yeah. Maybe we can talk about games in a little bit, but there is something game related that we did yesterday.
Yeah, I guess we'll make a whole episode about something we did once just yesterday.
Well, I mean, it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, it was okay.
So there's a series on Netflix called, I think it's called Love, Death, Robots, right?
Oh, you're going to start with that one. Okay.
Well, it's a series of short stories, and I think there's like three seasons of it, and there's just a bunch of independent little stories, and it's a cool series. I really like it. And apparently they decided to do that for video games.
Yep. And this one's called Secret Level.
Yeah, and instead of being on Netflix, it's on Amazon Prime. But it's the same people that did it, I guess.
Is it? I thought it was all like different studios, and this was just like the video game version, but completely different studios. I didn't look up any information for this. So
All
this
I know
is
is I saw the same guy's name in the credits at the end each time. I think it's probably like one group that is organizing it, maybe. Well, all I know is that Love, Death, Robots is also in the description, even on the secret levels.
Oh, okay.
So they're not hiding what its
Based
roots
on
are.
or,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's basically a bunch of
What they call them, anthologies?
I guess.
Like a mixture of small stories. They don't have anything to really do with each other.
Yeah, they're all about like 10 to 20 minutes long, and they're a bunch of little short stories about various
Video game franchises.
Yeah, and D&D. D&D was on there too, which isn't really a video game.
I mean, sorta, kinda. I guess technically D&D itself is like what, tabletop or role playing, but
Yeah.
like there are isn't Baldur's Gate
Yeah, that's a
basically
D&D game.
Yeah, so sorta, kinda.
Yeah, I guess the overall property is just a lot of different things. I mean, they also have movies, but so yeah, there's a bunch of them. A lot of games that I don't really know or have ever played or even have interest in. But then,
Yeah, so we kind of just stayed with the ones we either knew of the video game series or at least was kind of curious. Other than like one in particular, and that's because we both thought it was something other than what it actually was.
Yeah, I guess we can start with the one we started with was the Mega Man one, because I had seen teasers of this for a while, and I thought it was going to be like some all new like Netflix series or something, but no, it was just a 10-minute little short. And it's basically kind of I don't know if you would say reimagining of the first Mega Man story. So, I mean, Mega Man, if you don't know Mega Man, he's basically this little Astro Boy kind of robot. Dr. Light made him and Roll, who doesn't appear in this short at all for some reason.
Yeah, that was unfortunate.
And he also made a bunch of other robots, like Cutman, who was a lumberjack robot, and Gutsman, who was like a construction robot, etc. There's like 6 of them in the beginning. And then Dr. Wily is like his partner. He kind of like takes control of the industrial robots and makes them attack the city. Whatever. That's the basis of the game. And then Mega Man or Rock has to be like, oh no, I'll fight, and Dr. Light gives him like combat abilities. It's a simple NES story. It doesn't have to be too deep, but they made it into a little short story, and like this time, I guess the robots are kind of I thought at first they were going to be like mech suits, because that's what it looks like in the short.
I guess, but like this one is the robot or mech, whatever you want to call it, in this adaptation. This is based on that big yellow one that kind of splits apart in the video game and goes from one side to the other, or was it a different one?
No, you're thinking of the Yellow Devil. That's in Mega Man 1, yes, but that doesn't appear in the short.
Oh, so what was this mecha based on then?
This mecha looking thing, and we're calling it a mecha because they're giant. Like, okay, you got Dr. Light, he's a human, right? Then you got Rock,
who's like a little boy robot.
Yeah, but Bomb Man, which is the one this guy was based off of, he looked like a giant mech suit. Like Mega Man or Rock could have easily climbed into his like chest to drive him around.
Yeah, this thing looks like it could easily be like 8 stories tall or something.
I'd say maybe like 2 or 3, but yeah, it
What?
was
No
big.
way.
8 stories?
Okay, maybe 5.
I think
I
your
just
sense of scale is out of whack here.
okay, fine, whatever.
Anyway, that doesn't really matter too much. It's a big, big robot, and like in the original games and in the original Mega Man series, all the robot masters were basically the size of Rockman or Mega Man, and in this he's like gigantic. And I guess Wily used like these little spider robots to inject them with viruses.
Yeah, it was some kind of. It was like attacking their. What did you remember what he said specifically? They were attacking like their. I guess what would be the equivalent of their brain or something.
Yeah, it was techno babble, but like the little spider basically like climbed on top of Bomb Man's head and it was like doing techno electricity shit to it.
It was taking over his body.
Yeah, it's weird because like Bomb Man didn't have. He just looked like some weird sci-fi robot, whereas Rock at least looked like this little anime boy, right?
Mm.
But in the original series, like all the robot masters also had like cartoony faces.
Yeah, that's
So this
true.
this looked more like an uncaring, just sci-fi monstrosity.
I think that's probably why I got him mixed up with the Yellow Devil or whatever. Because
Yeah.
like he was so huge, he didn't have a cutesy face or whatever.
Yeah.
And like most of the paint on the mech was kind of like yellowish. I'm like,
It
oh,
was
okay, it's that
yeah,
then.
it was very unsaturated and kind of faded. It didn't. I mean, I was able to recognize it vaguely, like, oh, is that Bomb Man? And yeah, sure enough, right after that, they're like, oh, this is Bomb Man, and I
I
guess
mean, okay, he's throwing bombs, fine.
yeah, in the game he throws like very cartoony black bombs with like the fuse. In this, it was like these like just orange spheres that like beeped and blew up,
Yeah.
and then Rock had to like attach this. I guess it was like a fire hydrant attachment to his arm, and he like froze his arm, Bomb Man's arm, in place to blow it up.
Well, it seemed like he was using the first attachment seemed to have like the little blowtorch attachment, and then underneath he attached something that turned the heat into cold somehow.
So yeah, he didn't even have like a Mega Buster or anything, but
Not at first. No.
yeah. And then because Rock was like, "Let me help," and Doctor like, "No, you were built to help in the lab," and eventually he's like, "Well, you know what, Rock, I was wrong," and then he gives him the iconic blue suit and teleports him out to go fight the rest of them. But that's basically where the short ends. And we just see Rock on top of the building and it's playing that Mega Man 2 intro music, like a remix of it.
I think I vaguely got the music, but I couldn't quite pinpoint it.
So it was cute, I guess. I don't
Yeah, Rock looked pretty decent. I'm sad that they didn't bring Roll into it, but fine, whatever.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe Roll's back home or something.
She's just stuck with the broom somewhere cleaning the
Yeah,
floor.
I guess she's like the maid robot, which there's things to say about that, but whatever. It was an interesting little short. I mean, it's one of those things where I kind of just try to tell myself, don't overthink it too much and just let it be its own thing.
Yeah, I think there was a couple of points where you were like, I don't know, I felt like I had to calm you down a little bit. Like, try not to take this too seriously. It's like, it's just an adaptation. Like, they're just taking the basic gist of Mega Man and turning it into their own thing. Especially, I think that also happened with, I guess you could say the next one, the Pac-Man one.
Oh yeah, then we watched the Pac-Man one. This one was interesting because it seemed to tie into that game trailer they showed at the Game Awards.
Did it? Like, okay, I guess, kind of spoilers at the end. Pac-Man, and I want to say Miss Pac-Man, because it had a feminine voice.
Yeah, it did, but it didn't have the bow, so it's like a little Pac-Man AI drone thing that was following this dude around.
Yeah, so it was following him around, but also the fact that towards the end it got like that monsters thing, and I think I vaguely remember seeing that in the trailer, so maybe
Yeah.
it is based on that. Because, like, I don't know who the fuck the dude, quote-unquote, the dude was. I thought he was going to turn out to be a ghost, because he had the eyes and he had, like, the cape over him. So it's like, oh, I can see how
Kinda
that
looks like a
kind of,
ghost, yeah.
represents
But then
that.
in the short there were like other things that he called a ghost and they look like spirits floating in the air.
Yeah, they were just, like...
But it also turns out that it wasn't that, cuz like then we see one and it was like this glowing bit on a monster's face. Or was that something else? Cuz there was There was like the blue ghost was like in the air, and then there was like the pink ghost that was kind of like on the thing's nose.
I guess I just remember all the like little blue spirit things showing up around almost like an arena or something. They were like in their own little holes or something.
Okay, this is gonna sound really weird to anyone who hasn't seen
Yeah,
that
I was
other
like,
trailer,
what the
but
fuck's this got to do with Pac-Man?
the Pac-Man trailer that we saw, not to reiterate from last episode, but it's like this gritty, dark.
Metrovania.
Yeah, and you're like controlling this dude that's like in an overcoat that he almost kind of looks like a ghost. So he was the main character. He had a sword, and it was a Metroidvania with a little Pac-Man following him around. And every so often, Pac-Man could like do abilities. And this short was basically that in a movie, in a short little movie form.
I guess we'll have to watch them side by side because now that you mention it, and I'm trying to recall more from the video game trailer, yeah, this does really seem intertwined.
Yeah, which makes me think like, are all of these supposed to be like little teasers? Or is like Capcom going to do something new with Mega Man, for example?
I have no idea.
But maybe it's just Namco's like, well, we might as well do something because I mean they could probably just shoot out a quick Metroidvania without giving it much thought.
Maybe.
But
and that would also explain all the creatures in this.
Yeah. There's a
this
bunch of monsters.
Animation. Yeah, because I'm like, okay, I understand the Pac-Man. I get the ghosts at little points.
And there's cherries at some point.
Yeah, they got to throw that in. They only included cherries for some reason, and he didn't even like seem to like it.
Yeah,
but then they have all these monsters, and I'm like, what does that equate to in Pac-Man? But if it's with the new video game, I guess that could make sense.
Because like in this little movie, like this Pac-Man basically wakes up this being that's in like a tube, and he's just like this naked thing. He gets like a coat, and he kind of looks like a ghost. And then at some point, he finds a sword, and Pac-Man is just like constantly like telling him, "You have to eat. You have to eat,
or be eaten."
Yeah, and it's like.
I get that part. Like, oh,
It's so weird.
you're gonna eat the pellets, or the ghosts are gonna eat you. La la la. I get that connection.
So Pac-Man's basically this like a little devil on your shoulder, telling you to eat, eat, and kill, and eat, and kill, and eat, and kill.
Yeah, Pac-Man or Miss Pac-Man, whatever, is like really not a good being.
Yeah, it seems like this little AI robot thing that's like trapped in this. She called it a labyrinth or a maze, but it looked like a big, like, empty world.
Yeah.
And it seems like it wants to escape. So it's using this being that it like, got out of this tube to try to facilitate that. Because at the very end, it goes on its little adventure with a dude, and he's having to kill these monsters and eat them. And there's, like, this gate, and she kind of, like, bores into his body and, like, makes him turn into this big black
monstrous Pac-Man.
Yeah, and it just kind of like hoovers up the monsters, kind of like if it was like a power pellet, I guess. And then the being's like no, and is fighting back, and ultimately
then rips Miss Pac-Man like out of his chest, and then he dies.
Yeah,
he basically dies. She's still stuck, and she goes up against the now closed gate, and she just like, in a sense, beats her head against the wall, saying, what was it, repetition is strength, or something
like that, leads to strength or something.
Yeah, so like I could kind of see, if you don't mind me stretching the logic a bit, is like, the old Pac-Man game, was there ever a finale to that game, or was it more like Tetris where it goes on forever?
I think it just goes on forever.
So I can kind of see the connection between Miss Pac-Man is like just doing this over and over again, restarting the game, because that's what people did back in the day.
It's just repetition, yeah.
But there's no escape. She's literally just stuck there for fucking ever. But
in the infinite labyrinths, yeah.
Yeah, this is basically her hell.
That's interesting, yeah. It's so weird to like think, how are we going to turn Pac-Man into something dark like this? And obviously they tried to do something like this with Bomberman years ago, but with Pac-Man, I don't want to say it works, but I mean, it's still weird, but it's almost intriguing. Like, I wouldn't watch or play the game to like for the story necessarily, but its premise is fine. In like, this would make a good game, I guess. I'm interested enough to see like what the hell is going on, but yeah, it's very weird.
It's interesting because like there's always this thing about taking, say, Pac-Man, Miss Pac-Man in this sense, where it's just, a silly little game. There's nothing serious about it. There's, like, literally no even story. Like, the ghosts have names sometimes, but that's about it.
Yeah.
And then doing, I guess, what some might count as, like, edgelord or, what's the other term I'm looking for? Just...
Cringe.
No, not cringe. Just taking something and trying to make it, like, spooky dark and... I don't know. It's just taking something that's innocent or neutral and trying to put this weird, dark,
edgy vibe to it.
Grunge spins to it. Yeah, something like that. And it's like, people do that to other media all the time. Like,
Yeah,
I'm sure
true.
someone's, doing that to, like, fucking My Little Pony. I'm sure someone's...
Pokemon.
Yeah, Pokemon. Someone's probably tried it with fucking Bluey or something. Whereas, like, you just take these kid properties and like, oh, how can we make this edgy or something?
Yeah. And it's interesting because, like, we had talked about, for example, not too long ago, the Mario movie, the old Mario movie.
Oh, yeah.
And
I guess
it's
that
like,
counts.
it's not like they turned it adult too much. It's more like it turned it into something like PG or PG-13.
Some of those suits might count, but sure.
And it's like, in my opinion, that worked because it was still kind of like lighthearted and weird. Where this is just like depressing and like there was no good vibes here at all. It was
just sadness.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's interesting to see somebody like take Pac-Man and be like, what if we made this incredibly twisted and fucked up? So that was fun, I guess.
We'll have to see how the game turns out.
Yeah, maybe there'll be a demo or something. We'll definitely have to watch the trailer again now that we've seen that short.
Yeah, the animation and the trailer like next to each other, basically.
Yeah, because to me, it's like it's the same thing. Like it's in the game, it looks like the same little dude in that kind of coat, and the Pac-Man is floating by him the whole time, and there's that moment where he turns like they merge and become like this big black Pac-Man monster.
Yeah, but now like if we're gonna get into a story for Pac-Man, like how did she get stuck in this hell world? Why is she seemingly being punished for this? Like, what the fuck did she do?
It's probably going to be something like, oh, the government or the military made this little robot that can eat other things, and it's, I don't know, maybe it's kind of like a play on the black goo, where we made a robot that can survive off of eating organic compounds, and now it's gone crazy and it just wants to eat everything.
I guess.
Kind of like Horizon. What was that game called? Horizon Forbidden Dawn or something?
I don't know. You're the one that played it.
There's so many games I forget the names, but yeah, that's a classic sci-fi story. A robot that eats things.
I guess, but it also feels like even if they couldn't shut it down, I'm just thinking back to, remember the lower decks and they have that room with all the like menacing computers and stuff? Just put Miss Pac-Man in there. That can be her own hell too. But sure, let's make this whole fucking like open world place for her instead.
God, I so badly want more of the lower decks. That was so good. Anyway, what was the next one we watched?
I don't remember them in order, so
I think the next one we watched was Crossfire.
Crossfire? Turns out not that Crossfire.
Yeah, that's like, it looked like some military thing, and I thought, oh, maybe why would they bring back this old ass board game thing?
Okay, real quick. Before we bring in what Crossfire actually was, were you trying to make connections the entire time? Because I certainly was.
To the old game? Like, yeah,
Yes.
I mean, I was like, okay, so if anyone who doesn't know what Crossfire is, back in the 90s, there was this, I guess, tabletop board game from, I don't know, Hasbro or Milton Bradley or something. And it was, have you ever played it in real life? Because I don't think I ever did.
I didn't have it. I think maybe once I went to, I don't even know if we played it, but I feel like I'm having this vague memory where I'm in like this basement area and I see the box for Crossfire, but I don't know if it was like a thrift store that we had gone to or if it was actually someone's basement and it was like, oh, I want to play that because I always see it on the TV. But
Yeah, the biggest thing is the commercials.
yeah.
You'd be watching like Ren and Stimpy or Doug and like the Crossfire commercials.
It's the ultimate challenge, Crossfire! Crossfire! You get caught up in the crossfire! 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 Crossfire!
They were so iconic, and it looked like it was each player had like one side of the board, and you would shoot these tiny little marbles at this thing in the middle, I guess.
Yeah, I want to say, and oh god, I'm probably going to get this wrong, but I want to say that in what started in the middle of the board was this little plastic spinny thing that kind of had these arms. So the trick of the game was that you would take your metal balls that would be like in the shooty contraption, whatever it's called. You were tasked with trying to shoot this thing so that it would spin and move towards the other side of the board. And
Yeah.
once it hit the other side, you won.
Yeah, like you would knock it into the other player's pit, I guess.
Something like that, yeah.
So we went into this thinking, oh, they made a short out of that somehow. Maybe they would turn it into like the Hunger Games or something. That's what I was imagining. But it turns out it was like we see some guy who's like got a suitcase
Attached to him by like handcuffs.
Yeah, and he's like, oh, I got to get this somewhere, and I'm gonna get a ton of money, and then he had like mercenaries, and I guess they were trying to hide him from the government, I guess. And they're like, we can't, the fucking government and those higher ups and the capitalists or whatever.
And we're not the bad guys.
Yeah. And then like you see the other side, and they're like the government, and like we can't let the suitcase, get into the wrong hands. You imagine how bad that would be, blah blah blah.
We're not the bad guys.
And that was like the gimmick. Like both sides were like, we're the good guys or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's a typical shooty thing. Like, okay, they
Yeah, it's military shit. Whatever.
yeah, they're the one side is trying to sneak this guy out, and they have like decoys in the SUVs and whatever, and they're driving through the city, and then the other guys are like trying to get them, and they have snipers set up, and the decoys work, and like, oh no, the guy's actually in this other car, so they go after him, and it's just a bunch of action back and forth with people shooting at each other. And he gets to the end, and like, I guess they're basically pinned down, and the guy with the suitcase is running off on his own because the other dude that was like guarding him kind of goes crazy.
Well, there was two guys guarding him in the car.
Yeah.
And then one of the guy gets killed in the shootout, and the second guy, I guess, is like his best friend or something, and he lets his emotions take over, and he runs back, and he's like ends up getting into a fist fight with the guy that killed his friend or whatever, and it's like, I don't know, it's cliche, I guess.
Yeah, it's like we don't really know these characters too much, so it's kind of hard to care, but like it's just two sides fighting against each other, right? And so the suitcase guy is like running away, and he gets one of the other mercenaries catches up to him. He's like, come with me. And then one of the government people, I guess, I don't know if they're really government, but they're like, oh, leave the case. So they leave the case with her, and she's like, look, the case wasn't part of the contract. We need to get you safe. And the guy's like, no, I need the case or the guys are going to kill me, blah, 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 whatever. Who cares?
She's like, yeah, that's not my problem.
Yeah. And it's basically like, oh, these mercenaries, they're doing their job, and they're like, we're not the bad guys, we're whatever. And then like the government people were like, we got the suitcase because we're the good guys. And that's basically it. And it's like, it was whatever. I mean, it looked impressive, obviously, because...
I mean, all of these did.
Yeah.
In their own ways.
So it's like, all throughout that, I'm like, how the hell is this connected to Crossfire?
Yeah. So it was funny because, yeah, I was trying to make fake connections the entire time. So I'm like, oh, well, maybe the bullets are kind of like silver balls.
Yeah.
I can kind of see that.
And I thought maybe the little car, the little sedan they were driving in, maybe that was like the thing in the middle that you were supposed to shoot at.
Yeah, because like it seems specifically white.
And tiny.
Yeah, white and tiny, and it was just, I don't know. And then, oh, maybe the guy with the briefcase is... But that, he was specifically going to one side, so it wasn't like he was getting shot back and forth. So I'm like, how the fuck... Okay, so do you want to explain?
What it actually is?
Yeah.
Well, after we watched it, we were confused, so we looked up Crossfire, and apparently it was like... I don't know if it's currently active, but it's a first-person multiplayer shooter.
It's basically, what's CSGO?
Yeah, I mean, one of those, there's a million of them. You think of a Call of Duty, whatever.
No, I know, but it was specifically, what's the Counter-Strike?
Okay.
I think. That's the one, right?
I guess.
It's basically terrorist versus non-terrorist or anti-terror, whatever the fuck it
Oh,
was.
really? I thought the whole point was like you're both not bad guys.
Well, the terrorists think they're not the terrorists or something. I don't know. Terrorists, counter-terrorists, or whatever.
Because nobody was terrorists in this movie. They were just mercenaries versus like some government force, I guess.
Okay, I just mean like one side against the other.
Yeah.
So Crossfire was like, I guess it came out in 2007, I think it said, but it was like the most popular game in 2014 somehow. But it was because it was East Asia. So it was China, maybe Korea, maybe Japan, but mostly China, I believe. So they like already have like a fucking billion people playing video games, so it just automatically makes it the most popular of the world. And yeah, it was like their version. And apparently that's what Crossfire is.
Yeah, some
But, like-
super popular multiplayer shooter in the East.
And it was funny though because yeah, the first hit when I looked up Crossfire was the video game, but then every other picture, every other link was the Crossfire that we knew.
Yeah.
So it's really weird. I'm surprised they did Crossfire instead of CS:GO or whatever, which is like our version of it. Because like this is in English. I don't know. Maybe
I don't
it's
know.
translated into every other language.
Media these days, they do try to, cater to the
Everyone.
world. So they probably like, well, let's throw in something here for the East. Or, somebody on the staff was like, I really like this game and it was really popular. Let's do one for... Whatever the case, it was not the Crossfire we expected. And I'm sure there's going to be more people out there like us who go into it thinking, is this about the board game from the 90s? But no, it's not. It's just some shooty multiplayer thing that we usually don't really care about.
So what about the next one? So the next one I want to talk about, because this, I mean, Mega Man was pretty good, don't get me wrong. Pac-Man was interesting. But the Spelunky I thought was really good. And I liked the aesthetic of it.
Oh, yeah. I think Spelunky... Yeah. Go ahead.
So this... They call it Spelunky, and like, yeah, technically, but it seems like it was based off Spelunky 2, more specifically, because it has... I'm going to say little girl. I don't actually know if she has an age or anything.
I mean, Spelunky's so cartoony that, yeah, you can't really...
Tell it. Well, you could probably tell the guy. Anyways. So based off Spelunky 2, there's this little girl in like a yellow jacket, yellow hat, and she's... I guess it starts off where she actually is spelunking and she's going through and she's running from this giant like rat monster or something, and she jumps over this cavern, ravine, whatever, that's filled with like these like spikes and shit. She misses the edge of the cliff, so she gets put on a she like falls down, but she's not in the spikes yet. She's like holding onto what looks like a totem pole or something, and she's like, oh, I'm safe. And then suddenly the totem pole opens up this little hatch that's like right in front of her face. You see this fist-like thing, and she's like, oh shit. And then it just comes out, punches her. She gets thrown back, and she lands on the spikes. You don't see the landing, but that's exactly what happens. The next second, you see that she like wakes up and she's like panting and coughing and she's like freaking out and she's like, oh god, what happened? And she's just like in the front of this gate thing. So basically the gist of it is, well, how Spelunky works, and that you go through the caverns and it changes every time, and when you die you just start at the beginning again.
Yeah.
But when she starts at the beginning, there's like another woman at the front with her.
Yeah.
And it doesn't seem like she's currently, well, it's hard because the girl goes in spelunking, so we don't know if the other woman is also spelunking at the same time.
She looks so different. Like, I don't want to say she looked like realistic, or she just...
I mean, vaguely realistic, yeah.
She looked more like almost like a different style than the...
Kinda, yeah.
Because that main girl she looks like one of the main characters you can play as in Spelunky 2. Whereas this lady's like, she's way taller and she's got like a bodysuit on. She doesn't look like an adventurer, like an Indiana Jones adventure. She just looks different. And I don't know what that's supposed to mean, if anything, or if she's just an older, experienced lady. But she's like, oh, you died again. And, apparently in this world, or at least in this magical ruin, whatever, like, if you die, you just come back to life. So it's pretty death is nonchalant, I guess, to some of these people. The older lady takes it a bit more seriously, but the young girl's like, whatever, I died, who cares, I'm gonna go back in.
Which is funny because, like, when she first wakes up, she seems absolutely fucking terrified that she died.
Yeah.
And then it immediately changes to where, like, oh, I've died 30 times, it doesn't fucking matter.
Yeah.
So that tone kind of takes a very quick turn, but it's not necessarily bad. And yeah, it just shows this counter every time she dies, and I think towards the end she was like, oh my god, I've died like 84 times, like this is ridiculous, I'm never gonna get to the end. And then they finally start talking a little bit more, and the older woman says that, you know, she's counted every time she's gone on one of these adventures and how many times she's died and all this stuff. And she tells the younger girl that, like, oh, sure, every time you die, but, you know, it's also a different adventure. And then suddenly they seem to realize that, oh, yeah, every time I go into spelunk this place, it's not the same place. I have to find a new way around. And that's why I'm dying all the time, because you can't actually technically learn the room because it changes every time. So,
yeah, just like the game.
Yeah.
I
enjoyed this story.
I thought it was going to go into a different... like, there doesn't seem to really be any meaning to it. They're just like, well, each adventure is special. Yay.
I mean, I guess that probably also... This was one of the shortest ones, right?
Yeah, I thought it was going to go into, like, a more interesting or, I don't know, spooky thing where, like, maybe these infinite life things are going to end or something. Like, maybe... there's only so many or something. I thought it was going to do something like that. Like, yeah, you're in there and like, haha, death is fun, whatever, who cares? And then like, maybe she just doesn't appear anymore.
Yeah.
Maybe like, oh, you've hit 100 or you hit the magical 99 number that the temple wants or something. But no, it's basically like just, yay, adventures and dying.
Pretty much.
I really like... I've never actually played Spelunky 2, but I played a lot of the first Spelunky, so...
Yeah, I remember watching you play and enjoying the music that would play.
Yeah. And I
there's
recognize a few things.
Yeah, and there's like remixed music. And I guess all of these probably have some sort of remixed music. I know the Mega Man, I don't know about Pac-Man. There's not much to beat.
Yeah, there wasn't any... I don't remember any music in that one.
But the Spelunky, I think, probably had remixed music. I
didn't think to listen out for it.
Yeah.
I guess a lot of these games that we've watched in this series, they aren't really known for their music, or it's not really like a thing in the forefront. At least Mega Man, like, because it was an NES game, of course the music was important. So the next one was Armored Core.
Okay. This is all going to be yours for the most part, so you... Well,
I mean, I've only played like one Armored Core game, and it's basically, okay, you're in these giant mechs fighting other giant mechs. But the background story of it is about, like, basically in the future on the Outer Worlds or whatever. Oh, God, the Outer Worlds. That's another one. This is kind of a cliche, but, like, there's not really great government systems, so it's basically corporations versus corporations.
I mean, that's what we're heading to, so
yeah,
whatever.
And, like... that's basically what Armored Core is. Like, these corporations are just, you know, they're in for profit and they make so much money and there's so little control out there that they basically have their own military forces and mercenaries, and they're doing all sorts of wild, terrible shit. And I guess in this one, we're following this guy who is, well, you recognized him before I did, but he's Keanu Reeves.
Oh, damn it. I was going to build up to that, but okay.
I mean... after you said, like...
Well, I figured you just explain the story and I'd be like, okay, now the one thing I can talk about.
It's not even that important, though. And, like, I kind of recognized him after you... because when we were watching it, you're like, are you seeing what I'm seeing or something? And I'm like, huh?
No, I brought up that I wanted to look at the credits. And then we kept watching, and I'm like, are you going to be looking for the same thing I'm going to be looking for?
And yeah, after you said that, it kind of like registered, like, oh, then you must mean like the actor or something, and it kind of hit for me then. But basically the story of this short was this guy, I guess, this Keanu Reeves dude is, I guess he was a grown in a tube or a lab or something, and I don't know what his job was necessarily, but he had to go infiltrate this place, and there's more of him basically in there. And the computer that was with him, because I guess he has like a computer voice that's talking to him, and maybe that's weird. I don't
apparently it was different because she kept the voice, or she, because it's a feminine voice, kept saying things like, we're not like them. And yeah, he seemed confused at one point where she wasn't answering, but that didn't go where I thought it was going to go.
And so basically he had to like take his big core, armored core, which is the robot suits, and infiltrate this place and fight off a bunch of other ones. And, you know, there's a bunch of action and shit. And it's like, oh, look at the horrors that, like, what are they putting the human body through? Like, he's in basically drugged up test tube monkey that has to, like, a normal human couldn't handle what that thing is putting his body through. And so they're making more of that kind of person.
Yeah, I was thinking, yeah, because when he goes into the mech suit, and like there's all different types of depictions of how merging with the mech suit works. This one seemed to be putting on more of the idea that like it's almost like a drug addiction almost.
Yeah, I mean, he's getting pumped full of like all sorts of chemicals and drugs so that he can handle.
Yeah, I'm assuming adrenaline.
Yeah, because there's that one point where he's like, I guess he just put way too many G's on his body and he passes out. And the AI voice is like, wake up, wake up, wake up. And
I
like,
need you.
Yeah, and he's like, I guess getting pumped full of more stuff to, you know, jolt him awake. And that's basically what Armored Core is. Like, people are being treated as like this fleshy computer to drive these war machines.
I mean, that's kind of the Matrix, isn't it? Like, they're using the humans as batteries.
Yeah, in a different way. I mean, it's a different kind of thing.
No, I know, but it's just like the idea of, oh, the human body's a battery, so we're just going to put this battery into this mech and make it run.
I guess.
Or at least that's how I connected it. I don't know.
I think in the world of Armored Core, there are also AI-driven robots, but like, it's tough. Like, there's always the trope of like, oh, the computers and AI are going to do things way better than humans. But then you also have the trope of like, well, the AIs and computers aren't as responsive, or like they can't formulate plans as good as humans. So there's the give and take of like, which is better. And so they're using these humans and like pushing their bodies and minds to the limits with all sorts of fucked up drugs and shit and genome therapy or whatever. To
actually,
make like super soldiers to drive these things for the corporations and for profit, like not for good reasons, just because, you know, some fat cat like, well, we need better soldiers to protect our assets.
Yeah, I was just thinking in the very beginning when he gets like thrown out of the bar, someone did mention that like he was some kind of drug addict too, right? So they certainly seem to be pushing that idea that
yeah, and even like some of the other ones like were like, don't mess with this guy, he's
out of it.
Yeah, you don't want to mess with these guys. So yeah, it's just Armored Core stories of like, you know, people being pushed to be these fucked up things for these companies, basically.
Wow, it's almost like real life.
Which, hey, that's perfect segue into the other one, The Outer Worlds, which is basically the same kind of thing, except it's like it kind of tries to be a little more humorous because it's from the same people that made like Fallout New Vegas. It's Obsidian. So it tries to be a little more humorous, but it's basically the same idea. Like in the distant future, there's these corporations and they matter more than people or anything. So it's this hyper-capitalist society in the future where everything kind of sucks, but it's painted on with a fun picture of like old-timey capitalism, right?
Yeah.
Where you see all the cool art and like everything's great and like you can be a part of the cog in the system. And so we're following this dude who is too good for the world, I guess. He's very innocent and nice and he never lies. And he sees that
this little cinnamon bun is too good for this world, yeah.
And he's like basically working to clean out garbage in some hellhole planet. And
yeah, I guess he's like an orphan, supposedly.
yeah. And at one point he meets this girl and he kind of like falls for her and she's like nice. And she's like, I'm trying to make, you know, I want to be a scientist to make medicine and stuff to make humans better, to make a better life for everyone. So he's like, oh yeah, she's good. And she kind of falls for her. And then he sees a poster that's like, oh, she's testing out these new drugs. And he uses that as an excuse to be like, I want to meet her again because I haven't seen her in years. So he signs up to be a test
subject
for this company testing out all sorts of like drugs and weird compounds, and his body is just being mutilated and he's
God,
losing limbs and getting acid poured on him and being drowned, and it's awful, and he's like so happy because like,
He's gonna get a chance at this one girl.
and he does eventually meet her again, and it's like, oh, they have this little moment where they reconnect, and I thought maybe she was gonna pull him out of this, but no. She's like, now I want to get to the top of the company to make, things better for everybody. But then she kind of like,
She goes into the whole corporate thing again
Yeah.
of like, well, we can save money by just not doing any of these test subjects. We can just make the market our test subject.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh my God.
yeah, it's like, well, the people will decide, and capitalism, and like, you know how it is with people even today, where they're like, it's up to the consumers to decide if this company is doing something bad, then they'll just pick a different company.
That is also doing something bad.
So it's basically that idea, like, oh, the customers will decide if our product is bad and they don't want to use it, they won't buy it, and that's capitalism. So she's turned out to be this horrible person in the end, and he's like, should I turn her in because she's putting innocent lives at the line? And he was about to go, like, talk to the CEO to be like, hey, she's gonna do this thing, like, because he's innocent and naive, like thinking that's gonna change anything, right?
Yeah, like during this entire thing, he's like, I can't lie.
Yeah. But he ends up meeting her again, and she's like in the CEO's office, and then he can't bring himself to go against her because he's just head over heels for the girl, I guess. So he's like, well, no, you're doing good. I trust you, blah, blah, blah. And like, he gives her the okay to do the awful thing. She becomes the next CEO or whatever. And he's stuck on this planet just sweeping up dirt again like some idiot. And he's like, he doesn't have any of his limbs anymore. And like, the company's like, we can't use you. You're barely human anymore.
Yeah, there's nothing left for us to take from you.
And he's still like so innocent, like, it's, I don't know.
He's a big old dum-dum.
It's sad, I guess, and like, I thought it was gonna be funnier, and I guess there are some humorous moments, but like, yeah,
It's just depressing as shit because
yeah.
like, yeah, he's naive and he's sweet, but he's fucking stupid too. And it's like he's doing all this for a girl who ends up being fucking evil anyways. It's like,
Yeah, she starts off like, I'm gonna do good for the world, but she gets sucked into the capitalist system too. We're like, well, actually, let's worry about profits first. So yeah, the Outer Wilds, like, I guess that's what that game is about, basically.
or Outer
like,
Worlds.
Outer Worlds, yeah, Outer Wilds is something else.
Why do they have to be so damn close together?
Yeah. I haven't actually played the Outer Worlds yet, and I kind of want to, but I just haven't gotten around to it. I think I've talked about it before, so. There's going to be an Outer Worlds 2. I don't know if that's connected to the first one, like, directly, or if it'll be its own standalone story, so we'll see. Maybe I'll just do that instead.
You know, it's weird. I think the visual of him losing all his body parts and just becoming like this,
Cyborg?
yeah, I guess cyborg would be a good word. I think he appeared in my dream last night, and he was like, he was still going through all that stuff, and there was something about like this massive amount of paperwork that he also had with him, and just like explaining all this shit he went through, and it was weird. Like, apparently that one just stood out so much to me because of how absolutely fucked up it was.
Yeah, it's...
I know they try to add humor, but it's just really gross.
Yeah, I mean, also the body horror. Like, it doesn't get too bad. I'm pretty squeamish, and I was okay, but... It's still, like, at the end of the day, like, oh, he lost another limb. Great. Anyway.
He just does not care. What was the thing we watched that was talking about super optimism or something?
On YouTube?
Oh, yeah. Was that giraffe thing that starts out?
Yeah, that doesn't have anything to do with video games, but yeah.
No, but I am just thinking about, like, how that kid was, like, just super optimistic, even as he's losing all his body parts to some fucking corporation.
Yeah. Because his dream was just to see her again and talk to her and be with her again. And
what captivated him about her?
Well, at the very beginning, he was like stuck in some pit and he was injured. And she helped him out of the goodness of her heart, I guess. Because like back then, she was just like an innocent, I want to be good and I'm going to join this company to be a scientist so I can, bring more good to the world.
Yeah,
but she got sucked into the company and just became, a capitalist cog in the system, and she started caring more about profits too. And like at some point I know she made the comment of like, oh, I have to be, this is what I have to do to do good in the world, because otherwise I'm just a nobody.
But then she never did the good.
Yeah. It's just one of those stories, I guess. So the next one we'll talk about is the D&D one.
That was good.
Yeah, like I said, it's not really a video game, but
It's
a D&D
mixed.
adventure.
Yeah.
So you see like a D&D party, and they're, I guess, attacking some cultists, and then they rescue some boy who has like this
He's got, it looks
evil
like
thing inside of him.
tattoos and stuff on him.
Yeah.
But I guess it's a curse.
I don't know if he's like possessed, and they were gonna use him as a sacrifice or something. So they save this boy, and yeah, he's got shit inside of him. It's like a bad spirit, or we learn what it is later. But he ends up stabbing the paladin that saves him, and luckily
She just heals herself.
Yeah, she's like fine, because I mean, luckily she's a magical paladin, so whatever. And they're like, look, she says to him, I've done bad things too, and that's why I'm trying to be better now, but you know, we are who we are. I'm going to do what I can to help you. And they take him to, like, I don't know if this dragon is a D&D big named someone that we should know. I don't know who it was, but it was some golden dragon, right?
Yeah, I only know the very minimal basics of D&D, so most of the time I wasn't trying to figure out if these characters were anyone in particular.
Yeah.
I was just trying to remember what races are in D&D.
There was only one thing I recognized as far as named characters go, but
Really? You recognized one of them?
yeah, we'll get to it at the end.
Okay.
So she's taking him to see her, I don't know if that's her god or leader of her pantheon or something. And they're being hunted down by the cult, and like this skeletal looking dude riding this really cool looking bat monster thing. The rest of her party's like fighting off this dude and his like minions. I guess we should mention, like, there was a druid. I don't know what race the
Yeah,
druid was.
I was like, well, the druid looks like it was kind of orcish.
I don't know what
Or maybe
it
a
was.
half orc. Because he had like the tusks.
And then there was like the halfling mage and a dwarf monk.
Yeah.
And they're holding off the forces at the bridge, and she's trying to get the boy into the temple to see the dragon to save him, whatever. And the dragon's like, yeah, I can feel the good in you, so I'm going to help you, blah, 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 whatever. Sucks out the evil thing.
Like a vacuum.
Yeah. Oh, there was a funny part in the fight on the bridge where, like, I guess the druid turns the big, scary skeletal guy into, like, a snail.
Yeah, yeah.
Anyway, the fight scenes and the action scenes were really cool. They get inside the temple, and yeah, the boy is cured of whatever was inside of him. But it turns out, like, I guess he had, like, Tiamat inside him or something, because, like, basically that thing ends up bursting out of the good dragon. And they're like, oh my god, it's Tiamat, which is, like, this...
Oh, is that the character you know?
Vaguely. Like, I don't know too much about D&D, but I know that's one of the big, important, like, gods. Like, one of the gods. I think there's, like, good gods and bad gods, and it might be, like, one of the bad gods.
I mean, I guess that makes sense.
Oh god, I mean, I don't really know too much about D&D. Most of my knowledge comes from freaking Baldur's Gate, so... Anyway, then, like, they're all facing off Tiamat, and the kid's like, oh, well, I can hold him off. I've been fighting him inside me for forever. And they all line up to fight against, like, this 5-headed dragon thing, whatever. And it was just... I mean, that's basically where the story ends.
Yeah,
right?
it's just a good fantasy story in general.
A quick little fantasy story, and it was really well animated. I mean, of course, all of these look good, but this one looked really good too. And it was probably the only one where I thought, like, I could watch just a bunch more of this.
Yeah, because, I mean, it's just a good D&D adventure. So that's why
Yeah.
I brought up, like, well, they got that movie, and they said that was supposedly really good, so...
Yeah, we should watch that. Apparently, it's really funny too, so that's a good sign. Because, like, I like things where they don't get taken too seriously, and they can have some fun with it. We should definitely watch that. Anyway, so the D&D one was fun, I guess. I don't know if there's anything else you want to say about it. It made me want to play more Baldur's Gate, but, like, a different story, you know? Like,
I guess, because, like, Baldur's Gate has some randomness to it, but the story itself is the same every time.
yeah, and then you get the same characters, and
It's just like, okay, fine, whatever.
I'm not a huge fan of most of the characters in Baldur's Gate 3, like, your party members.
Yeah, Shadowheart's whatever, the green lady, She's just cranky bitch, whatever.
She comes to her own eventually in the story and is like, oh, okay, I can see why she's like that, and maybe she's okay, but she's kind of insufferable for most of it.
I think for the couple of times I did play, and I never got to like even the second act, I don't think, but I think I ended up having her die a couple of times, and I'm like, yeah, whatever. It didn't bother me too much.
I guess Gale was kind of interesting, and then you get the vampire dude, and I don't know. It's tough. Like, I just wasn't like super into any of the characters. They were fine. So it's like I would want more Baldur's Gate. I just wish there was like another story I could play through. But I mean, I guess we could just play the old games. Anyway, whatever. Let's move on to the final short we watched, which was the Concord one.
Yeah, I guess.
Because I mean, everyone knows Concord at this point. It's the failed
Sony property, I guess.
Yeah, they were trying to make an Overwatch clone.
But like 8 years too late.
And it just, everyone canned on it because it just looked bad. Not only did it's just more Overwatch, so who cares? But it's also like the characters were unappealing.
I guess to some of them.
None of the characters to me looked like, I want to know more about this character. Like, I don't care about Overwatch, but I can at least be like, I love Tracer. She's cute and she seems fun and I like her design and I would watch a Tracer show.
We all know why you like her design. And does everyone else.
Okay, sure. There's also the whole sex sells thing. Like, some of the characters are really cute. And it's like,
yeah, I was going for like the robot monk and you're over here like, yeah, but Tracer's ass.
I didn't say that, but
you know that's how you're feeling. It's okay, sweetie.
Tracer is cute as hell. It's not just about her ass.
No, I know.
But the other characters too, like
Mercy's also cute.
Mercy.
The angel
the
lady?
angel one?
Yeah.
I don't know if I really like. I guess there's this new. Anyway, let's not talk about too much about Overwatch. The characters are interesting and attractive, and
sometimes have interesting stories.
Makes you want to see more of them. Like, they just seem fun. Whereas the characters in Concord were just like, I don't care about any of these people.
Yeah, their trailer that took up the first 10-15 minutes of the summer game things or whatever is like, everyone's like, when is this gonna fucking end? I don't care.
It's hard to explain why, because like Overwatch is full of just humans as well, but they look so
and like a giant
interesting
and a hamster in a ball
and robots, and they're just very varied. Whereas in
Concord, but you said that, but like as we're watching this animation, like there is you got, I guess, the majority of the humans. There's the captain, the other guy, the other guy.
Okay, but we're talking about Concord. The original trailer didn't have that variety because these were new characters.
Yeah, I guess.
That's the thing too. After watching this, I was thinking they could have probably done better if they had just shown this instead. It makes me wonder, like,
honestly, they would have done better even if they didn't make the fucking Overwatch clone and just make a show. This show.
Maybe. Or like an action RPG, like a Mass Effect kind of game, like a story-based game. Okay, maybe we should start from the beginning. Because, ignoring Concord the game, that was a huge failure that nobody cared about. This short starts with, it's talking about the world. It's setting up the world. Like, in the future, everyone's in space, blah, blah, blah. Again, the corporations are in control of the trade lines and the safe it could travel, basically.
Be a corporation, but I think they specified technically a mafia.
Well, I mean, corporations, right?
Yeah, maybe they could be a mafia.
Anyway, basically these big corporations control safe travel because one of the things that they made a big deal about was like in the future when you're traveling through light space, you're basically guessing because you can't see where you're going when you're traveling faster than light. So you're kind of guessing the direction, and sometimes that goes badly. You'll crash into planets or space debris, or you'll just get lost and freeze to death or whatever, right?
Okay, that beginning was pretty funny.
Yeah, they did a good job of setting up the world and like the tone of it. Like it's spooky, it's scary, but it's also kind of, haha, the world is silly. And basically the corporations have the control of like, we'll tell you where to go and the safe routes, but it's going to cost you. And that's the whole thing. Like, there are some people on the black market that are trying to fight against this, and they're pirates or blah, 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 whatever. So we start with like this captain who I guess she's got this chip embedded in her arm, and the space forces, I don't know what they're called, but the government or the corporations or the mafia, whatever, the bad guys, the people in control, they have her and they want the chip. So she's like getting taken to this hospital where they have to like take the chip out of her arm, and the guy's like, he just wants to do it fast because like, I don't care about her. The chip is what matters.
Yeah, because the nurse, the doctor, whatever, that's going to take the chip out, she's like, she needs to be put under first or something before we rip this out of her arm. And he's like, no, fuck you, just fucking do it.
So she's like, okay, but she needs to have her arms up at least. So she puts her arms up and he's holding it, and I guess she's handcuffed together. And while all this is going on, there's like a dude outside and he's like sweeping up, and basically there's this whole team around her trying to save her. So it's the nurse, the dude outside, and then like there's this mascot that walks into this floor and is like, oh, is this the children's ward? And the guards are like, no, you got to get out of here. And then there's a sniper outside, and he's using like this grappling sniper rifle, I guess.
Something like that.
He shoots a rope between the captain's arms to get her to like be able to, zip line out of there. And then like this whole action scene pops off. And it's kind of silly because like it takes a long time before like the big bad
creature thing, because he's not human.
The alien dude who's like, trying to get the chip, it takes a while for him to like kick into action, which was weird to me. It's like he's just standing there for a few seconds or whatever. I don't know. There's this big action scene. It's whatever. It's
kind of complicated. This was like the longest animation, I think. This was almost 20 minutes.
It was complicated, but also like not very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it's just shooty shit. So.
Yeah, and it just felt like unreal in the sense of like, how did they pull all this off, and this guy's just standing there letting it happen? I don't know. So they save her. They save the captain. Well, technically, they kind of abandon her. They escape.
They think she's dead.
Yeah, they fuck up because like, oh, she fell down, and oh, she's probably dead. We just got to get out of here. So all this misfit crew get back on their ship, and they're escaping, and like, they're getting shot at, and they fly off, and they have like a new guy, the new pilot, the escape pilot or whatever, right? And there's just like, it's like a few humans, some green looking alien lady who was like the nurse, I guess, or pretending to be the nurse.
And then it's like the axolotl lady. Yeah,
like a super colorful, like bright colored monster girl. I mean, the big green lady is also a monster girl, but I guess like they gave her like a really sexy outfit, even though she's like a pickle woman. It's really weird.
Pickle woman.
It's like, oh, she has like, this outfit would look really sexy on a normal human being, but because it's on this pickle spiky monster lady, it's just kind of off-putting.
You might as well just call her a fucking cactus at this point.
I guess yeah, she kind of looks like the cactus guy from the original Concord trailer. It's a weird design.
They actually have him in the very last like scene of the...
Was that him?
Yeah.
I was wondering if that was them or not.
Yeah, that was him.
Anyway, so they're escaping, and like the captain is on there too because she's stowed away as like a soldier. It's like, oh yeah, she's here and we're all celebrating. You got the thing? Yeah, I got the thing. Yeah, we're gonna be rich. But then they get caught by the space forces, right?
Yeah, they like capture their spaceship by like grappling hooking it.
Yeah, and it's like the guy's like, look, there's a bounty on her. If you leave her, we'll give you the bounty and you can go, whatever. And it's like, do you trust those guys? I don't know, but like you're dead either way. So the pilot's like, fuck it, yeah, I'd rather be alive and share the wealth than just all of us be dead. And like, to be honest, that made sense. Like, I mean, you're all a group of pirates, like, but no, they chose to all die together because they kick out the traitor amongst them. He gets like flung out into space. The big dude in the other ship, the Armada, basically, they're like, fire, and they shoot the ship to pieces. Well, not to pieces, like they escape, but they're basically shooting into the light speed without any steering because their ship is crippled.
Yeah, and they're going into some kind of weird space abnormality
thing. Yeah. And it cuts to like, it shows them like, I don't know if they're melting or something, but it's just all this trippy visual stuff. And then it cuts to like a bar scene, and the bartender's like, and this is the little doohickey, the lucky doohickey that they had, and it's priceless.
Yeah,
it's like, it even says it's priceless on the thing, and it's very jokey, like it lighthearted kind of thing. And I don't know how I feel about it, honestly. Like, part of me is like, that was kind of fun, but also a lot of it was kind of dumb.
I mean, yeah, I suppose. Again, I still feel like if they had put 8 years of work into a show, they would have made so much more money than what they ended up doing with a video game.
It's tough because like it feels like there were just many different hands pulling this project in different directions. Where like Sony must have been like, we want an Overwatch clone, make us Overwatch, we want Overwatch money. And then somebody on the other team was like, I want to make a bunch of aliens and make a story, but that's not what we're getting the funding to do, so we have to make Overwatch, and then we'll just throw this story on like supplemental materials. And that's like the worst way to make stories.
Again, and this has happened many times. This probably fucking happened with Overwatch 2, because it wasn't nearly as much as a failure, but I don't think most people liked Overwatch 2, for what I'm aware of. But like, it's always the fight between the suits, Sony, and the people actually making the game that maybe actually care about this.
Yeah.
And can you just imagine being a video game developer, putting your maybe heart and soul, or at the very least just putting your blood, sweat, and tears into this video game for 8 years, and it finally gets released, and it just shits the bed? I mean, hopefully they got fucking paid anyways, but
Yeah.
like, that still has to hurt.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough because, like, even I think Concord was trying to, okay, they were trying to be Overwatch, but their whole gimmick was going to be like, we're going to have story, and every few updates there's going to be like a big story, and that's going to introduce new characters.
But like, if you're doing an Overwatch where people just pick a character and you go fight, you can't make a story around that.
Yeah, it's tough because, like, again, Overwatch has that too, where like some characters are bad guys and some characters are aligned with this group. Tracer and
Mercy.
Tracer and the Widowmaker, I think that's what her name was. They're like antagonists against each other, and they're in all the cutscenes that you see, they're like always fighting against each other, right? But when you're playing the game, they can be teammates and they could be shooting at everybody. Like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
It's just pointless. So it's hard to get invested in the story and characters when you're playing the game, all you do is just kill each other again and again in the same locations again and again and again. It's just like,
it's like you're Pac-Man stuck in their own hell.
It's just bad, man. I don't understand the appeal. Like, people, I guess the appeal is for people who play these games is not the story. They just want to shoot each other. But it's sad to put so many cool characters stuck in that kind of like lame prison. Like, I wish Overwatch again was like a Mass Effect kind of game where you're like in a third person action adventure and you have like a party, like, oh, you can play as Tracer and the little dwarf guy with his machines or whatever and the gorilla, and you're all like having RPG conversations and doing stuff. But no, it's not that kind of game. You're just killing each other over and over again. It's pointless.
Supposedly, I heard Overwatch 2 had a storyline, or wanted to.
I think they wanted to do a single player story segment to Overwatch 2, but they like never got around to it. So again, so
they'd rather just make skins for $30 a pop or something.
I guess it's just the more profitable, easy thing to do.
That's sad. You know what would be interesting though is actually taking like the Overwatch characters and putting them in one of those like dystopian hell things where like, oh, this is my best friend, and then suddenly they're on opposite teams and they have to murder each other, and that just replays forever and ever and ever, and that's their hell.
Yeah. I mean, that's basically what the game is, unfortunately. So like, I remember the first trailer for Overwatch, and like there was these kids in the museum, right? And then they meet Tracer, and they're like, whoa, it's Tracer.
She's so cool.
But like, none of that matters in the game, so it's so sad. And that's basically Concord's trap as well. It's like, I don't know if any of those original characters from the video game were going to be any good. I mean, they were unappealing looking, so that they were having an uphill battle, even ignoring the trapping of the genre. But it's like, what would have happened if instead of that they just made a story game and like put out a story trailer? The characters are still unappealing, but at least they could get their hooks into you with an interesting little setup of the story. But if it's just going to be a multiplayer game where you're just shooting and killing each other, the people who play those games don't care about the story anyway. So it's like you're marketing at two different things, and it's just not going to work.
Yeah, this feels like a pick your lane kind of thing. Look, either you make a fucking Rudy Tooty Shooty multiplayer thing that you can just sell $100 skins, or you make a show with a storyline or a game with a storyline, whatever, but you can't do both.
Yeah.
It just does not mix. It's oil and water.
Yeah, it's like trying to inject a story into Mario Kart. Or like, I mean, Street Fighter technically has story, right? Like, Chun-Li's father was murdered by M. Bison, and there's like that whole thing. And like, Sakura really loves Ryu, and she wants to be like him. And like, there are little story moments, but it's also just, when you're playing the game, I guess they do have a story mode that you can go through, but I don't know. Maybe Street Fighter has gotten better at it. I actually do want to play the new Street Fighter game. Well, it's new for me because I haven't played it. I think Street Fighter 5 with like the adventure mode.
Oh, where you make your own character?
Yeah, so maybe they did do something good with the story there, but like at least there is something there to like dig your teeth into for single player mode and to see the characters interacting.
Maybe.
Whereas with...
But I feel like that would be a completely different discussion.
Yeah, true. Anyway, well, I guess that was all the ones we watched.
Yeah, there's a few more that we didn't go over, so if you happen to see one that is a game that you actually played or something that you care about.
Yeah, like
then,
Warhammer was one of them.
Yeah, I'm not going to get into Warhammer, sorry. I know people fucking love it.
There's at least 2 more I want to see.
If we must.
I don't remember the names of them, but like the setups seemed interesting. I mean, to be fair, did you enjoy any of the, like, the Armored Core one or the Outer Worlds? Or any of them? I mean, you haven't played any of these except, I guess, D&D. It's still kind of fun to watch.
Good. Armored Core was just mechs. I don't get into mechs. I'm sorry.
Well, I mean,
Spelunky was
story,
good.
Like the Keanu Reeves character stuff.
Yeah, I still don't care.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, his story was kind of whatever. Like, again, it's dystopian stuff. Like
the military stuff was just like, oh god, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think the best one was probably the D&D, I guess.
Mega Man was good. D&D, Spelunky, that was fine.
I didn't really like Spelunky.
Was like, eh.
Concord had potential. For a while, I was like, oh, this is kind of cool, but like, it kind of lost me at the end. So, if it's tough. Like, I feel like Concord has potential, but it's
not as the game.
It's pointless to worry about now, basically. So whatever. Oh well, that's life for you. Some of our projects just go nowhere. I know that feeling. Well, that was a show. I'm going to watch more of it. I think it's been renewed for season 2, so hopefully there'll be some more games we actually know or give a shit about.
Yeah, it was funny. We watched it just last night because of a recommendation that you got from, I guess you'd say a really friend of ours, or acquaintance at least. And then today I go on Reddit and I see like, oh, the thing we just watched last night has been renewed for season 2. So, okay, cool.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see. And interesting to see if any of the companies do anything. Because I know, obviously, Namco's like, they seem to be leaning into this short to make a game. But would Capcom make anything with Mega Man? They seem busy. So, probably not. But
who knows?
I guess we'll see. Well, it'll be fun to see what Season 2 is. And I still want to see some of the other ones. So, I don't know if we'll talk about the other ones. But whatever. Maybe
next week we should be hopefully talking about... what games we did play and how we ranked them if you want.
We'll do our personal games of the year.
Yeah, because I don't think we played anything that was actually... Well, you played...
I played 3 games that came out this year.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we'll talk about it. It'll be fun. We'll make it a...
That'll be our end of the year.
Special. Our GameRomp Game of the Year Spectacular, which is not going to be that spectacular.
Nope.
But it'll be us talking like we always talk and hanging out. So if you like hanging out with us in these, then please join us for that.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Thanks for being here with us.
Thanks for hanging out, listening to our rambling, and we love you.
Take care. Be good. Bye-bye.
Bye.